Going to be Trent Horn. Woo! Yeah, round of applause. Woo! Yeah. After his conversion to the Catholic faith, Trent Horn earned a master's degree in theology from Franciscan University of Steubenville, a master's degree in philosophy from Holy Apostles College, and is currently pursuing a master's degree in bioethics from the University of Mary. As a staff apologist for Catholic Answers, he specializes in teaching Catholics to graciously and persuasively engage those who disagree with them. Trent models that approach each week on the radio program Catholic Answers Live, where he dialogues atheists, pro-choice advocates, and non-Catholic callers. Trent is also the author of 5 books. All right, well, please welcome Trent Horn.
All right, well, thank you guys very much for being here. I'm really excited to be here because I was supposed to be here 2 years ago to address everyone, but there was that little snowpocalypse, if you guys remember that. So now it's really fun to be able to be here. Let me put a few things out here. First, I noticed when I was kind of milling around, eavesdropping on people's conversations, I heard some people, they're looking at the program, they're saying, apologetics. We got advanced apologetics, high school apologetics, college apologetics. Well, what's that? I'm not sorry for being pro-life. That's not what apologetics is. It's not like you're always apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm with the pro-life club, I make things awkward because I talk about abortion. I'm sorry, it's going to be a little bit of buzzkill. That's not what apologetics is. Apologetics is a defense of something. Now, traditionally, it has been a branch of theology dedicated to the defense of the Christian worldview. But you can be an apologist for many different things. And today, we're talking about being an apologist or a defender of the pro-life worldview. How do you defend your pro-life convictions when you're, especially in college, when you're out on campus, let's say you're at your table, and you're talking about your pro-life club, and someone comes up to you and says, well, why are you against abortion? Don't you think women should be able to choose? What about a woman who's been raped? Are you against abortion in the case of rape? How we respond, we have to remember there's 2 things to keep in mind. There's having the right answer, but then there's also communicating the answer in the right way. And actually, the latter is more important than the former. And what I want to talk with you all today is I want to give you a roadmap. In whatever conversation you're in, whether it's on campus, off campus, whatever it may be, how to talk about abortion and how to defend your pro-life worldview. Because many of us, we know deep down, many people know deep down they're against abortion. But when they try to explain it to other people, they start to get lost, or they step on a landmine in the conversation, like an emotional landmine, and things kind of blow up in their face. So I remember once I was at a high school giving a pro-life presentation. And so I was giving the presentation, and as speakers do in presentations, you kind of sweep the room like a lighthouse or radar, boop, boop. And I kept getting a ping in the back, because whenever you're looking and talking, you can always tell when there's that one person who really doesn't want you to be there. And there's this girl in the back, she's just like, and her face is just completely scrunched up, not happy with anything I have to say. So at the end I say, does anyone have any questions? And her hand immediately shoots up. And I go, oh, this is going to be interesting. She gets up, and she has a question that's really more of a statement disguised as a question. She said, Mr. Horn, what gives you the right to shove your beliefs down everybody else's throats? I mean, I don't like abortion, but I don't go around telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies like you do. Now, how would you answer that? Our first instinct is we want to get defensive a little. I'm not shoving my beliefs down people's throats. I'm not imposing anything. You're imposing something on babies. We want to get ready, and we think it's time to fight. And sometimes in these engagements, if you're on campus and you're talking to someone and they're challenging you, we feel defensive and we feel like it's time to be in fight mode. We want to be Daniel-san, and here's Cobra Kai, and they're being unfair. They sweep the leg, so then I'm just gonna crane kick this guy, which is also totally illegal. I don't know how Daniel-san won the competition when he did that, but Karate Kid, anyone, please? Okay, I'm not too old. Good. Not the new one, not the real one. Thank you. Okay. But we don't want to do that. Our conversation should not be boxing matches, karate matches, whatever it is. It's not fighting toe-to-toe. It should be standing shoulder to shoulder to find the truth. So I didn't want to fight with this young girl. So instead, I asked her a question. If I had to give you one tip out of this presentation today, one thing to take away from what I'm saying, even if you forget everything else, it's this. You don't need to always have the right answers. You just need to have the right questions. When you ask someone on campus who's challenging your pro-life worldviews questions, suddenly you're not in the hot seat anymore. You're in the driver's seat of the conversation, as one of my favorite authors, Greg Koukl, says. You're in the driver's seat. Try to ask as many questions as you can to the person who's challenging you. It puts you in control of the conversation, and it disarms it. Now it's not a fighting match. It's trying to figure out the truth together. So I asked her a question, and what question would you ask? Remember, here's what she said to me. Mr. Horn, what gives you the right to shove your beliefs down other people's throats? I mean, I don't like abortion, but I don't go around telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies like you do. Try to ask a very simple question, one that gets to the heart of the issue. What do you think I asked her? Any ideas? Yeah. Bingo. I asked her, I'll call her Kylie. Kylie, can I ask you a question? Why don't you like abortion? Why don't you like it? She said, well, isn't it obvious? I said, well, okay. Pretend I'm a 5-year-old. Explain it to me like I've never heard this before. What about abortion do you not like? Well, it takes a life. Okay, well, can I ask you another question? What kind of life does abortion take? If I take antibiotics, that takes a life out of my body, but I didn't have an abortion, right? Well, it's a human life. Okay, well, you don't like abortion because it takes a human life, but you can't tell women that they can't take a human life or kill a human life within them? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Can you help me understand more where you're coming from? And she just kind of sat there, and the other students turned and looked at her, and she said, well, it sounds bad when you put it that way. I said, well, I didn't put it that way. You did. I'm just trying to figure this out. And that's the model, the attitude we want to have with our conversations, especially on a college campus. I want to understand where you're coming from, and by asking questions and getting the person to confront their pro-choice worldview, whatever it may be, now it's not you trying to convert or convince them, it's them grappling with the evidence, trying to convince themselves that they're still right, and maybe realizing there's something wrong with what they believe. All right, so when the conversation of abortion comes up, what's the roadmap? What do we do? Here's where we start. First, whenever someone talks about the issue of abortion and defends legal abortion, they say abortion should be legal because they'll give a reason. Those reasons can be divided into one of two types, on topic and off topic. What's on topic, what's off topic? Well, they relate to the one topic, the one question you must always try to drive the conversation back to, no matter what. And that's this question. What are the unborn? We don't want to talk about poverty endlessly, or welfare, or contraception, or overpopulation, or politics. That when we get off on these distracting side trails, we lose. We lose. Abortion just becomes another issue, not the issue, the most important moral issue of our time. So we always want to get back to that one question and answer it. What are the unborn? Because if the unborn are not human beings, abortion is really not a big deal. And we're wasting our time. And we're hurting people, frankly. But if the unborn are human beings, then abortion cannot be justified. We want to get to that question. What are the unborn? I want that person to answer that question for me. But how do we get there? Now, we could just say, oh, you think abortion should be legal because, women are poor? Yeah, but what are the unborn? Huh? Take a more gradual approach. You want that person to kind of lead themselves to that question. So when people give reasons to justify legal abortion, on-topic reasons answer that question, what are the unborn? And then off-topic reasons do not answer that question. And the majority of reasons that you will hear to why abortion should be legal completely leap over the question of what are the unborn. They assume the unborn aren't human. They don't directly address it. So let's play a game. I'll give you a reason abortion should be legal, and you shout out if it's on topic, It answers the question, what are the unborn? Or is it off topic? It does not answer the question, what are the unborn? Abortion should be legal because women have a right to choose. Right. Abortion should be legal because a fetus isn't a human being. On topic, right. Some people of these will say, off topic, they are human beings. No. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying, does it answer the question, what are the unborn? Abortion should be legal because of rape and incest. Abortion should be legal because some women might get dangerous back alley abortions. Abortion, it should be legal because a clump of cells doesn't have the same rights as a born woman. On topic, good. We want to get on topic. Now, 9 out of 10 times when you ask someone why abortion should be legal, they'll give you, the reason is this: because it helps born people, and born people would be worse off without abortion. Any reason you think of will fall under that most of the time. It's off topic. But how do we get from off topic to on topic? We use a technique called Trot Out a Toddler, developed by my friend and colleague Scott Klusendorf, and streamlined during my time working at the organization Justice for All. To remember this technique, there are 4 A's that my team members at Justice for All developed. Agree, apply, ask why, and ah. Agree, apply, ask why, and ah. So how would this work in a conversation? I'll give you an example. I was at the University of California in Berkeley, a very open-minded, tolerant place, doing a debate with an embryologist named Malcolm Potts on whether abortion should be legal. And during Q&A, a woman stood up and she said, Mr. Horn, what about women who live in third world countries? What about a woman who already she's pregnant, has 2 children, she can barely feed, they're on the risk of starvation. What is she supposed to do? Now, we're tempted to want to say, well, there's foreign aid, there's international adoption, there's other things. Don't go down the rabbit trail. Because does abortion become moral if adoption is no longer available? No. Does abortion become moral if we no longer have welfare programs? No. Because it's a moral crime against the unborn. So I want to get to what are the unborn. So is this off topic or on topic? It's off topic. Doesn't answer the question. Some women are too poor or in extreme poverty. So the 4 steps are agree, apply, ask why, and ah. So first I agreed. I agree with you. Extreme poverty is difficult. It's scary. I'm not sure what I would do in that situation. Why do I agree? To show I'm a normal human being. My friend Steve Wagner puts it this way: people won't care if the unborn are human until they see that you are human. People won't care if the unborn are human until they first know you're human and that you understand there are social complexities in our world. Absolutely. Life is complicated in different social circumstances, but the issue of abortion is actually simple. It's about whether the unborn are human or not. So I agreed, of course, poverty is a very difficult situation. But then I apply. Agree, apply. Apply is where you take whatever the off-topic reason is and you apply it to a 2-year-old, to killing a 2-year-old, no matter how strange it sounds. So I said to her, look, would this be an okay solution? Let's say this woman has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and she's pregnant. She can only take care of 2 children. What if she just killed the annoying 2-year-old and then when the baby's born, she has 2 kids again and it's all the same? Should she be allowed to do that? Now, most people will say, no, of course not. So agree, apply. Who remembers the 3rd step? Ask why. Once again, subtle. Be subtle. Let the person get there on their own. Humor me. Why can't she kill the 2-year-old? Well, because you can't kill people. Agree, apply, ask why. That's the issue. This is where we tie it all together. It's not about poverty. It's not about choice. It's not about safety or health, because we would never kill a 2-year-old for those reasons. It's about whether the unborn are as human as a 2-year-old. Well, they're not. They're just a fetus. They're just a clump of cells. It's not a person. Okay. Now we're on topic. This is where we want to be. Are the unborn, number 1, human beings, members of our species? Number 2, do they have the same basic rights you and I have? I don't say they have the same rights you and I have. I'm specific, same basic rights. A fetus does not have a right to drive a car. A 2-year-old does not have a right to drive a car, but both of them have the right to not be run over by a car. okay? Same basic rights to life, basic rights to be treated as a person. Those two questions, one is scientific, one is philosophical. With science, very simple. We just show that the unborn, if they are growing, they've got to be alive. If the unborn are not alive, you don't need abortion. So if somebody says they're not alive, you can ask, well, what do you need to do an abortion for then? If they're not alive. Well, of course they're alive, they're growing. Are they human? Careful, the word human has two meanings for people. Scientifically, it's patently obvious. Say, look, the unborn have human parents, and they have human DNA. They belong to the human species. Now, some people say, well, to be really human, you got to be able to think and act in specifically human ways. That's philosophy. Start with science. Show the unborn are members of our species. Then finally, we want to show that the unborn, they're alive, they have human DNA, and they are a whole human being. Because people will say, well, look at this. Living human cells I'm killing. Am I a mass murderer? No, these cells are body parts. They're not human beings. The unborn are human beings. Because, and I call this the net test. How can you tell if something is a body part or a whole living thing? I give it the net test. Nutrition, environment, and time. If I give this thing nutrients, put it in the right place to live, and give it time, does it have the capacity to grow into a fully grown member of a species? Take skin cells, sperm, egg, cancer cells. If I give them any nutrients, put them any environment I want to, in unlimited time, will I ever, when they're all isolated, will I ever have a fully grown human being? No. Now, if you've got the sperm and egg to mix, you would. But if you have sperm here, egg here, skin cells, give them nutrients, give them environment, give them time, always be the same. They're body parts. But if I have an adult, if I have an infant, and if I have a fetus or an embryo, give them nutrients, environment, and time. They have that capacity. They may not become a fully grown adult. They may die accidentally or intentionally, in the case of abortion, before that point, but they have that capacity to grow and develop. Scientifically speaking, it's clear the unborn are human beings. A favorite thing I like to do, I was on a college campus once, and someone said to me, it's not a human being, it's a fetus. I said, can you help me? What is a fetus? And I had a display out. That's a fetus. Right, that's an example, but can you give me a definition? Well, if you're so smart, why don't you tell us? So I'd be happy to. A fetus is a human being from the 8th week of their life until birth. An embryo is a human being from conception until the 7th week of their life. And if you don't believe me, and there were a lot of people around, Google it on your smartphones, definition fetus for human beings. And people started to look it up, and then they put their phones away when they saw that I was right. One girl said, no, it's not a human being. It says here it's an offspring. And I asked her, you may want to Google what the word offspring means. It's not an obscure band from the 90s. Wasn't there a band, Offspring? Right? Okay, thank you. All right. You say, how does that guy know so much about stuff? 30 minutes a day on Wikipedia. Just start clicking. You'll learn all kinds of things. But of course, the unborn, obviously they're human beings. People will say, well, they're different. They're so small. They're not developed. Sure, the unborn are different than us. Absolutely. So admit, of course the unborn are different. But then ask in your conversations, do those differences matter? Why does that matter? The philosopher Stephen Schwartz came up with a great acronym that summarizes the differences between us and the unborn, and our job is to show those differences don't matter. So the acronym is SLED, S-L-E-D. Size, the unborn, look, it's the size of a grain of rice. How big do you have to be a person? And my favorite counterexample would be a newborn infant. Some premature babies can fit in the palm of my hand. Does that mean that they're only 5% of my value because they're 5% of my size? L, level of development. Can't think or feel like us. Why does that matter? There's a problem whenever someone says thinking or feeling makes you a person. If they say just being able to feel makes you a person, then the problem is that means anything that feels is a person. So if you run over a squirrel on the way to the conference and you keep driving, that's hit and run, buddy. Going to prison. That squirrel definitely felt that. So feeling pain can't automatically make you a person. Well, it's not just that. You got to be able to think rationally more than an animal can. Well, if that's your definition of a person or a human being, fetuses, embryos are not persons, but neither's that newborn baby. Stop talking about toddlers and newborns. They're not born yet. Size, level of development, environment. Say they're not born. And to that, I just simply ask, why does that matter? So what? What you're doing is you're just picking a difference and saying, because they have that difference, they don't matter. Look, throughout the history of the world, here's what's always happened. Two things. Strong, powerful groups want to oppress a weak, marginal group. So they find a difference between the strong and the weak and say, that difference gives us the right to oppress you. That's always happened, and something else has always happened. The strong group has always been wrong. Skin color, nationality, sex, male, female. People always pick these differences, and they're always wrong. And we need to say, look, why does being born matter? How does moving from inside the womb to outside the womb change your value? A change of address does not cause a change of being. Well, because they can't survive on their own. D, degree of dependency. Size, level of development, environment, degree of dependency. They can't survive on their own, so they're not a person. And I'd ask, you're right, the unborn cannot survive on their own. But why do you have to do that to be a person? Why does that difference matter? Someone called my radio show once and said, I think a fetus isn't a person because it's not viable. I said, well, it is viable. The unborn is viable in the womb until at least about 20 weeks, but that they're viable where they can live. That'd be like if a Martian teleported us to Mars, and then what would happen? Did anyone see the original Total Recall? It wouldn't be that cartoonish, but we would asphyxiate, because the Martian atmosphere doesn't support life. And the Martian said, see the Earthlings? Not persons, they're not viable. Well, we are viable on Earth, not Mars. We're still persons. The unborn are viable in the womb. And so I said to this woman, I said, look, let me understand your position. You're saying the unborn is not a person because they are at their maximum level of helplessness. There's a little pause. And she says, well, it sounds bad when you put it that way. So see, what we have to do in our conversations is kind of strip away the euphemisms by gently asking questions and making these comparisons to show the pro-choice worldview doesn't hold up. Today, I gave you a crash course. Let me just summarize. If you felt like I threw a lot at you, well, I did. But the way to learn this is practice. So we start, ask the reason. Why do you think abortion should be legal? See if it's on topic or off topic. If it's off topic, because you want to get to that one question, what are the unborn? If it's on topic, great, you're already there. If it's off topic, use trot out a toddler. I agree, there's merit to some of this reason in some circumstances. Poverty's difficult, for example. Apply. But that reason, would you kill a 2-year-old for it? Well, why not? Because you can't kill people? That's the issue. It's not about these off-topic reasons. It's about, are the unborn human beings, like a 2-year-old? Then show scientifically the unborn are members of our species. And philosophically, the unborn are different from us, just like a 2-year-old is different from an adult. But those differences do not justify ending an unborn child's life through abortion. That's the basic roadmap I take in every conversation that I have. So what I want to do now, I want to have some fun. I'd like to invite out Michelle to come out here. And we're going to do a little role play exercise. And you all are going to help. Let's see, I need also Reagan to help. Let's see, she has a microphone. What I want you to do now is think to yourselves a question, an argument, something you've heard on campus, maybe something someone has said to you or something you've heard on social media, an objection, an argument, something a pro-choice person has said, and we are going to role play a conversation for you to see these tools involved. Now, there's some tools I haven't touched on. You might go to an advanced topic, so you get a preview of that. But you'll see many of the basic tools I shared with you will come up in almost every conversation. So we're going to model that for you. I'm going to be the patriarchal, domineering, white, cisgender, Christian, pro-lifer. So basically the worst person in the world, according to some university studies departments. And then she's going to be our helpful pro-choice individual of varying characters. Who knows who will show up in every conversation, people that you run into on campus. So raise your hand if you have an objection, argument, or a question that you'd like us to model in a conversation, and we will get that. All right, first up.
I heard the argument that you should only give rights to a thing that has sentience, so can you do an objection to that, please?
Okay, go right ahead. Yeah, I'll ask you. So,
What do we got going on here?
well, this is our Students for Life table, and we have been here. Remember, the number one rule in improv is you can never say no whenever you do improv in theater, so just roll with it. And you and I have been talking for quite a while about this abortion exhibit, and you said something interesting to me.
Okay.
You said we should only give rights to beings that have sentience.
Yeah, that just makes the most sense to me, being, aware and having that level of thinking. That's what is valuable to me.
Okay, so sentience is the ability to be aware or feel pain?
Sounds good.
Okay, why does sentience matter to you?
I just feel like that is what it distinguishes us from other animals, right? That's why we're important and valuable. That's what separates us. That's what makes us our own.
Well, I'm trying to understand your position. I'm Trent, by the way. What's your name?
Hi, Michelle. We've been talking for a while. We didn't do that.
That's right, we didn't, but I'm glad that I introduced myself to you because it's important in our conversations to have that human connection.
I feel better.
Yeah. Well, now I'm a little confused, so help me understand. Because when you say sentience is feeling pain or awareness, would you agree that like a pigeon is aware of things and they could feel pain?
Aware of a certain level of things, not necessarily the awareness that we have.
So do you think or rats, do you think it's like murder if you fumigate rats?
I am a vegetarian.
Right, okay, but do you think though that killing a rat is the same as killing like a 3-year-old?
Oh, they're not the same. They both make me sad. I guess one makes me more sad.
Which one? I'm really hoping for a certain answer.
The 3-year-old.
Okay,
one.
why?
Yeah. Well, obviously they're at that level of sentience, and nobody wants to see a 3-year-old die.
Okay, how about a newborn baby? If you were in a burning building, you could save a newborn baby or a rat. Which one would you save?
You're pushing me. All right. Yes, and there are some people around overhearing this, so I'm going to go with newborn baby.
Okay, why would you pick the newborn baby? They're both sentient.
Well, the newborn baby just has a different level of it, right?
Well, what do you mean by that?
It's something about just being a human being. You have a different level of it.
What do you mean by a human being?
What? It seems like you've researched this more than me. Okay.
Well, I'm actually trying to figure out where you're coming from. When you say
Right.
the newborn's a human being, what does that mean?
You're a human being, like me and you, and we're all of the same species, and the rat is not part of our species.
Okay,
And
could I
so
ask you?
that we're equipped with
Yeah.
a certain amount of thinking that the rat doesn't have.
Could I ask you a question? What species, like a human embryo or fetus, like an unborn human, what species do they belong to?
Well, they're human beings without the sentient part.
Right, but it seems to me that sentience is not the main thing for you. It's being human, because if you had a sentient rat, you would put them aside to save a newborn, not because they're sentient, but because they belong to the human species. That seems to matter more to you.
Couldn't it be the combo of both? You have to be human and sentient?
Well, why?
That makes the most sense to me.
So you're saying that humans that aren't sentient aren't persons?
They're just not, it's not a value one over the other, I would say, or it is a kind of a value one over the other that, yeah, if you're human and you haven't acquired sentience, that is where I would draw the line.
Okay, do you think though, let me give an example here. Have you ever heard of ableism?
No, teach me.
Ableism, so there's different kinds of discrimination, like racism says a certain race is more important than others. Ableism is a kind of discrimination that says some humans aren't as important because they're disabled, like someone in a wheelchair, for example. So would you agree that we shouldn't discriminate against people because of race, that if we discriminate, you're in a wheelchair, you're blind because your abilities, that's wrong too?
I agree with that.
But then help me out here. It seems like you're saying that some humans who don't have an ability like sentience, you're saying they don't matter. But if we're picking their ability, isn't that a kind of ableism?
That doesn't feel as good.
Okay, why don't we stop right there? So notice here first, were we on an off topic or on topic? No, what were we talking about? What question, what are we trying to figure out? Yeah, whether the unborn matter. So we were actually on topic. This objection dealt with something on topic. So what was I trying to do? I was trying to get her to define what a human being is, and more importantly, what will always happen in an on-topic conversation is this. The person will say, well, maybe they're human, whatever. They're different than us, so they don't matter. And notice what I was doing in the conversation. Trying to get her to tell me, why does that difference matter? And show, by comparing with born people who have that same difference, that it really doesn't. Let's try another example. This time, does anyone have an off-topic one, an argument, something you've heard? Not necessarily answer the question, what are the unborn, but it's kind of more off-topic. Go right ahead.
I hear a lot of people say that it's a woman's choice, like it's her body.
Perfect. It's a woman's choice. Could I ask you a question? I know you saw our table here, and you told us earlier you're pro-choice. Why are you pro-choice? Why do you think abortion should be legal?
Well, it is something that involves our bodies. This is something that a woman is going through, and I have a right to my body, and it is my choice what I do with my body. So if I'm going to be pregnant when I'm not ready to be pregnant, and my body is involved, that is my choice. That is my right.
Okay, let me see if I understand where you're coming from here. You're in favor of abortion because it's something that involves your body. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I agree with you that we should all have different kinds of choices in life, as long as they don't hurt other people, for example. But let me give you an analogy. My wife's pregnant, and we have a little baby at home. And this baby needs to be nursed constantly, even during the night, wakes up a lot. And so my wife goes, and we have to get up out of bed, use our bodies. She uses her body to nurse the baby. Should she be allowed to say, well, this baby doesn't have a right to use my body. It should be my choice. I don't want to have to be a parent right now during the night and just let the baby, cry for 24 hours.
That's different. That is different.
How is it different?
When in pregnancy and you were just stuck for 9 months, and I can't walk away, I can't pass a bottle to somebody, I can't maybe consider adoption and place the baby with another family like if I wanted to, or have anybody else kind of tag me in. There's no tagging anybody else in when I'm pregnant. I'm just stuck, and that's my body.
Well, let's say we've got like a single mom who lives in like a rural area, or she doesn't really have help. It's just her crying baby. She doesn't have any help. Maybe she lives in a country where she's really isolated. Should she be allowed to say, I don't want to have to give my body over to this baby anymore. I don't want to have to, it should be my choice. And she just, puts the baby outside for better or worse. Should she be allowed to do that? Because it's still her body.
I just feel like it's a different use of her body. Okay, if we're going to say we force you or whatever to feed your kid, that's a lot different than putting somebody inside of you 24 hours a day. I just think it's a different usage.
I see. And, I would agree with you that, for example, I wouldn't have a right to, do a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and get really small and go inside your body, which is weird and gross. We shouldn't think about that anymore. To, use your organs.
We're gonna move
on. But if you think about it, though, if there's a part of a body that's naturally for that child, because it seems to me what is our heart for? Our hearts.
To pump our blood.
Okay, what are our lungs for?
To breathe the air.
Okay, well, what is the uterus for?
Well, to develop a baby if you want to.
If you want to. Well, let's say you've done something that causes a baby to exist, and now they're in the place where we can take care of them. Don't we have an obligation to that child? Think about this. If I sleep with someone and they get pregnant, do you think that woman has a right to child support from me?
Yes.
Why? What if I don't want to support anymore? I don't want to have to be involved.
Well, you were involved, but I guess I could kind of, I see that, and maybe we shouldn't then pressure that, but okay, I do support that.
Okay, well, why don't we, here, let's put a time out here.
That's a good one.
We had a bit more advanced ones for our workshop here. If you notice, there's 2 areas this could have gone. If someone had said, well, I think it should just be her choice, I think a person should have a right to choose, that's really, really off topic. So you could agree, there's lots of choices we should have, But then how would we apply that? You know, should someone just have the right to choose to kill a 2-year-old? Well, no, of course not. Now, if you notice in the conversation, sometimes people will mix, it should be my choice, my body. There's 2 different ways that might go. If they say it's my body, they might literally mean the unborn is a body part, which obviously they're not. Especially, let's say if half the time a pregnant woman has a male child, if it's part of her body, then she has male genitalia, which actually isn't as shocking now, given what people say about transgender, things like that. But I think where this often goes, where we alluded to, is the idea that even if it is a baby, they shouldn't be allowed to use my body without my consent. That got us into an area called bodily rights. And since I didn't want to overwhelm you guys, I didn't mention that in my apologetic in my first part about how the roadmap. But fear not. My friend and colleague Josh Brahm is actually hosting a workshop, an entire workshop, next session, I'm going to actually go sit in on the question when people say, look, it's my body, my choice. I don't care if it's a human being. I don't care if it's a person. I should be able to do what I want with my body. So if you want to learn more about in-depth how to answer that, Josh is really good at that, and that's, if you look on your sheets, he has a session, Advanced Apologetics, Bodily Autonomy. I'd recommend checking out his session for more on that particular question. Let's try 1 or 2 more objections, arguments you've heard. Yes?
So I'm really sad I have to say this, but what if someone actually, when you try, I guess, for example, try out the toddler, what if they actually say, yes, it's okay to, I guess, kill a newborn or kill a 1-year-old? Because I have heard of I've heard 1 or 2 people that would actually have said that in the past, so... Yeah, what would you say to that?
I want to go briefly through this to get to the more common ones, because you rarely will hear that. There's basically two kinds of people who will say that. The mentally disturbed or philosophers, sometimes it's hard to tell a difference. And for serious, I was at a private Q&A session with Peter Singer, and I forced his feet to the fire, and he admitted killing a 6-month-old baby is on par with euthanizing a dog. So here is where I might, if it happens, it's the third kind of person. They're yanking your chain. They just want to give you a hard time to make the conversation difficult. If you sense that, you can say, look, this is a serious issue. I want to have a serious conversation. And if you're not ready to have a serious conversation on this, maybe I can talk to you later, or maybe I shouldn't waste my time. Some people may be mentally disturbed, so be aware of your safety. And other people who are philosophers will say, yeah, I don't think killing a 2-year-old is wrong. And I'd say, well, when is it wrong to kill someone? Ever? Do you value anything? Try to see what they value at all. And if they don't value anything, then after this workshop, you might want to go to the Christian worldview workshop, because you've got even deeper problems to address. Let's try 1 more.
I've been posed with the question as to what if the mother's life is in danger, she should get an abortion so that she can live.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, and you know those situations where, I mean, the baby is posing a serious risk to her life. I had a friend who, I think she was in the middle of what's that pregnancy where the baby doesn't go in, ectopic pregnancy. My friend went through that, and they told her she had to have an abortion to save her life. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do there.
Okay, so you're saying, what if a woman's life is in danger?
Yes, and that's the option. We have to get, this embryo, this fetus out to save her. Don't you want to save her? Should they both die? I don't know. Like, isn't it better to then just do the abortion?
Okay, well, let's take a step back. Would you agree that if the unborn are not human beings, anything we do in this situation doesn't matter? They're just like a clump of cells. Mm-hmm. But if they are human beings, then we should approach the situation, we should be delicate because there's 2 lives in the balance.
Mm-hmm. And I do agree with you this time that
they're human beings.
They're human beings, and
okay.
I think that it's tragic, but I don't want to lose her life. And if doctors, across the country are agreeing and giving this advice, like they're the authority, and that's what they told her she needed to do.
Okay. Well, it's good that we have common ground. You agree the unborn's a human being. You're just trying to figure out, well, what do I do if the mother's life is in danger and we can't save the child? And here is a principle that we can live by. Doctors can kill disease or kill problems, but they should never kill a patient to solve a problem. And when a woman's pregnant, we have two patients, the woman and the child. Because would you agree in many of these situations, the mother would want the child to live, they would want both of them to live if possible?
Except for that one scenario in Grey's Anatomy, yes.
Okay, well, the only thing I remember about Grey's Anatomy is all my female friends talking about McDreamy. Otherwise, I don't know too much more about that show. But it seems to me, so they would ideally want that. So we have to approach this that we can't kill a person in order to save another person. But we could act in a way to stop a problem, even if a person dies unintentionally. Let me give you two examples. Okay. Let's say that I am on a boat has sunk, and I'm on a lifeboat with somebody else, and the lifeboat can only support two of us, and can only support one of us, and it's starting to sink. Now, would I have the right to go and throw the other guy off?
That would be rude.
That would be rude. It would be poor etiquette to murder a man. So we'd see there that, yeah, I would not have the right, even if I'm trying to survive, or if I was hiking with someone and we're lost in the woods and I'm getting really, really hungry, I couldn't just turn him into a fillet,
Ideally, no.
Yeah, I'm not going to Donner Party this. So we agree you shouldn't kill, even if it's to save someone's life, we don't kill people to save other people's lives. But we can do something to address a problem, and someone might die unintentionally. So maybe, like in the lifeboat situation, I'll try to steady the boat and I'll try to fix the leak or whatever. I'm going to do something that's risky, and he might fall out. But what I'm trying to do is to do the best I can to save us. I'm not trying to kill him, but it's unintentional.
So you wouldn't be the girl from Titanic who didn't let him share the raft. You would
Now,
swap back
I'm
and
pretty
forth.
sure, now James Cameron said that with the scene, it would have flipped over.
I know, they
did it on Mythbusters.
They gave up. All right.
Okay, fair enough.
Kept trying.
And actually it was Jack who said he wouldn't get on. But anyway, we can debate that later. We got enough on our plate
Okay,
right
I
now.
know.
So when it comes to, you said an ectopic pregnancy, that happens when the embryo, 99% of the time, the child implants in the fallopian tube.
That's what they say.
And that's usually because the tube has scar tissue or it's damaged. So a doctor can say, hey, this child's growing here. This part of the fallopian tube is damaged. It's unhealthy. So we can destroy a problem. This tube is damaged. It needs to be removed. So in doing so, the child goes with it and the child unintentionally dies.
So you would remove the whole tube?
You could remove a part of it, or
Okay.
you could make another small incision. There's different ways to approach the
'cause then
situation.
That obviously, that option's kind of scary to a woman too, because then now she's down 50% of her. Is that how that works?
That is one way. There's other people who say that you could administer a drug called methotrexate that attacks part of the child's placenta. And there's a debate about whether you're attacking the child or not. But there's different options. But
So
one
there
that,
are
especially let's say this mother's pro-life.
Okay.
Like if it was me and my wife, she'd say, I don't want to hurt this baby. Just remove the damaged part of the tube. And if it's damaged, we don't want it in there anyways.
Okay.
Because this might happen again. So let me give you another example of where we might.
Seconds left.
Yeah, I think we've.
But I mean, that was good, and I think they benefited from walking through that. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and let's give Michelle a little applause here. Thank you so much for the help. Two other examples I use for that when people say, what about a life in danger? To underscore, you can solve a problem, attack a problem, and people unintentionally die, but you can't directly kill people. I give two other examples. One, if I'm a lifeguard and there's two people drowning, I might save one, but I can't save the other. But I can't use one of them as a flotation device to save the other guy. That's killing one person to save another. Or if an airplane is flying into a building and terrorists have hijacked it, we might blow up the plane. We don't want to kill the people involved, but we're stopping the threat to the building, which is the airplane. So it would be moral in that case, but let's say terrorists said, you got to round up 100 people and kill them or we'll blow up this building. Now in that case, most people will say, no, you can't do that. Because there, we're not attacking a threat and people unintentionally die, like a plane into a building. We're directly killing some people in order to save other people. So thank you guys so much. Let me give you just a quick resource that I think would help. I wrote a whole book on this subject called Persuasive Pro-Life, How to Talk About Our Culture's Toughest Issue. Everything I've learned about this issue and how to dialogue about it is in that book. and you can get it online. I think you can get it on Kindle for like $5. If you want to really learn how to talk about this issue well, I would recommend that resource. It's Persuasive Pro-Life by Trent Horn, and you can also check me out on social media, Trent Horn, Catholic Apologist on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have questions, I'll probably be milling around for the day. But thank you guys very much for being here.